ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Anmol Astrology channel. So today's topic will be about the transit of Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius. So now Jupiter is going to transit on April 6th in the sign of Aquarius, and then it is going to go retrograde and enter the sign of Capricorn back in the backward motion in on September 14th 2021, and then it'll again in the month of November it'll go back into the sign of Aquarius, and I think it is going to stay there up to April or March 2022. So what happens is, first of all, we need to understand what is the meaning of retrogression, and when a planet, specifically Jupiter, does that when it changes its motion from direct to reverse motion and goes into the previous sign. So it simply means that Jupiter is not ready to give the results of the sign of Aquarius, or which is the forward sign. Like it also happened in 2020 when it was going back and forth in the sign of Sagittarius and Capricorn. Then it also happened previous year in 2019 when it was doing back and forth movement in the sign of Scorpio. So Jupiter has a tendency to change its motion and change its signs while in reverse motion. So now this year Jupiter will be in the sign of Aquarius, and we are going to talk about that. So one thing we need to understand is that when we are talking about transits, the most important planets are Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu and Ketu, because these are the planets which take the longest time in the transits. So if a planet takes a longest time in the transits, that means that it is going to lay down the heavy effects, right? So what Jupiter, Saturn or Rahu Ketu does is that they activate the houses, the particular houses which they are aspecting on and are placing in. Okay, so right now with the transit of Jupiter, because Jupiter is the Jiva Karka, it brings life to that house. Wherever Jupiter is transiting and wherever it is throwing its aspect, Jupiter and Saturn, those are the houses which are the houses of manifestation for that 1 year and 2.5 years in case of Saturn. So now what happens is, Jupiter coming into the sign of Aquarius, Jupiter is going to activate the sign of Aquarius, as well as it is going to activate the sign of Leo, the sign of Gemini, and most importantly the sign of Libra. Why the sign of Libra, the most important one? That is because Jupiter and Saturn are both going to lay their aspects on the sign of Libra. Saturn is going to give its 10th aspect and Jupiter is going to give its 9th aspect on the sign of Libra. That means that Libra is receiving both the aspect, and Libra will be the sign which will play its most manifestation. So wherever Libra falls in your particular chart, that is the area which will be highly activated. I will go on and I will post another video also where I will include all the signs from Aries to Pisces, that this transit of Jupiter along with the aspect of Saturn, how is this going to manifest? Now we need to understand that what results will Jupiter give in the sign of Aquarius. Now the sign of Aquarius is the natural zodiac belt of 11th house. What is 11th house? 11th house is the house of our hopes, desires, our wishes. What do we want to accomplish? The recognition, the large organizations. It can be NGOs or it can be MNCs, multinational organizations. And 11th house is also our social networking circle. All the people we come in contact with. A normal hello hi with people is also the 11th house. Our friends circle is 11th house. Our the circle from which we gain is the 11th house. And one important thing, that 11th house is the bhavat bhavam of 6th house, so it is higher self of 6th house. So it means if 6th house is the house of competition, and it is, if it is the house of your colleagues, and it is the house of your competitors, then 11th house is the higher self of it. It is also the house of competition and your competitors. And then 6th house is the house of pets, animals, pet animals, right? So 11th house is actually the house of wild animals. Okay, Aquarius is a sign, a very humanitarian sign. Basically, it is the sign of serving other people, working for the welfare of other people. Like recently, I was going through the chart of Princess Diana, and she has her moon and Ketu in the 4th house in the sign of Aquarius. And I researched a lot on her, like I was very curious to know about her, and I'm somehow planning to do a study and make a video about Princess Diana, which I will come up with very soon. So I read there that how she was the one who made people aware of many humanitarian activities about AIDS, about animals, about the situation of Africa, about helping less underprivileged people. So that is what the sign of Aquarius is. Aquarius is, of course, it has its karmic backgrounds also because of co-rulership of Rahu, which is in the sign of Aquarius, because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Rahu as well. But of course, this sign has more of its positive effects as well. And in my opinion, since 11th house is a house of is a trick house, so it grows with the time. And same is the situation that the trick houses rulerships, which is like the sign of Aquarius, it grows with the time. Okay, so now what we are doing is we are putting Jupiter here. Jupiter, who is the guide, who is the counselor, who is the teacher, who is the guru, who is the manager. We are putting Jupiter in this sign. Now, one thing you guys need to know is that the sign of Aquarius is actually the duplicate sign of Cancer. So it behaves like Cancer, but it is the wild side of Cancer. Whereas Cancer is a sign which is quite motherly, all of that nourishment is there, but the sign of Aquarius is the wilder side to it. It has extreme side to it, basically. The people, the wrath in the people, or that power of doing something for the welfare of the society, that can have its dark aspects as well. So now Jupiter being in Aquarius is like people are going to manifest the gains in their life. They are going to manifest the recognition in their life. So this 1 year is going to be all about gaining through different sources, thinking out of the box, because Aquarius is the sign of thinking out of the box. There are going to be changes, drastic, transformative changes, actually, related to the thinking of people. What is Jupiter? Jupiter is optimism. Jupiter is our belief system. So now the planet of beliefs is going into the sign where there is some unorthodox and out of the box energy. So that's why this Jupiter is going to think about the welfare of society. So you'll see all of the people doing or talking about something. Most of the communications are going to be about bringing in changes around the world. So how we need to figure out this placement is that wherever the sign of Aquarius falls, that will be the key area of responsibility. We need to understand this one thing is that wherever Jupiter transits, there comes some responsibility, there comes the heaviness, because Jupiter is the heaviest planet. But wherever Jupiter throws its aspect, there is where the blessings are. So you can see, since it is activating the house of the Leo, the sign of Leo, it is activating the sign of Gemini and Libra. So there are going to be a lot of creative endeavors which will include youthful people, creative people, and even celebrities. All of them will feel like there is some responsibility in them towards the welfare of society. Even they will come up with creative projects regarding the welfare of society, and there will be a lot of responsibility regarding the people actually on an individual level going to gain through all of these placements. That I will discuss in the next video along through the ascendants, but this is just an overview of how this transit is going to play out. And one more important thing you need to see is that which Mahadasha, Antardasha and Pratyantar Dasha you guys are going through. If somewhere you are going through Jupiter Mahadasha, then of course the impact will be the heaviest for you. Heaviest, from heaviest, I don't mean negative in some negative sense, it is more of positive, of course, because Jupiter is a positive planet, but it will bring up some responsibilities related to wherever the sign of Aquarius is. And then it will manifest, and wherever the sign of Libra is, that house is going to get activated. Like for example, we can talk about one thing, that for example, if a person is Sagittarius ascendant, so now Jupiter is in the 3rd house and Saturn is in the 2nd house, and both of them are activating the sign of Libra. I can put a chart over here which can give a better example to it. Now what will happen is that 3rd house is the house of communications, the house of travel, short distance travel, and very opposite to it, which is the sign of Leo. It is also activating the sign of Leo as well. So that is the higher self of it. 9th house is long distance travel, your higher education and all stuff like that. Then we have Saturn. It is also, so 11th house is getting activated. So such a person can actually gain in their social network place or in their job. They can get promoted, or their status will be elevated at their workplace. If a person is not into job, then what it means is that a person can travel long distance. A person can travel long distance for the sake of higher studies. And the third case can be, since Jupiter is also aspecting the 7th house, it can bring a marriage for a person. Okay, so this is how we study all the transits, right? And on the mundane level for India, since India is Taurus ascendant and Jupiter is going to transit the 10th house, Saturn being in the 9th house, and the 7th house will be, the sign of Libra will be in the 6th house where already Jupiter is present. So, and Jupiter is giving Binashtak Varga score as 2 points to the 10th house. So what does this means is that the government is going to face a lot of responsibility regarding the citizens. They will feel that need to protect and provide the welfare of the citizens. So what you will see is that government is going to take transformative actions towards the welfare of society, which can actually lead to some conflict, or which changes and decisions can be caused due to some conflict. So something transformative is going to happen in the government of India. And of course, due to low Binashtak Varga points, it can create a lot of chaos as well. So guys, this was my analysis about Jupiter transiting in the sign of Aquarius. I hope I made it quite easy to understand. And if you guys would like to have your personal readings from me, you can check out the link below, www.anmolastrology.com, and under the consultation section, you can book a personal reading for yourself. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.